Hi guys, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. It's kind of hard to say welcome back to my channel when I only have one video uploaded previously to this one. So I want to start off saying sorry about the lighting. I live in Washington. It is gloomy and rainy and that's just what we're working with today. So also I'm filming on my phone. I don't have a camera yet, but let's just get things started. So if it looks like I am looking to the side or looking straight at you, I apologize because it's kind of hard not to look at this big huge screen in front of your face when you're filming on your phone. Anywho, so today's video is going to be about my migraines. I am 21 right now. I will be 22 on May 16th, 2020. And I figured it would be a good time to talk about my migraines because I have had migraines my entire life for as long as I can remember. My mom got them not for as long. She doesn't get them anymore, but she did for a while. And my mom's mom, so my grandma, had them too. She has since passed away from other related problems with cancer and whatnot, but she had migraines also. So it's kind of running down the line on my mom's side. And then I, for the first time, I'm looking at my planner. I went to see a neurologist on November 14th, 2019. I saw him. How the meeting went was interesting. I had my fiance and my daughter with me, so it was a little bit better than just going by myself because I got very emotional and I didn't expect to. I am one to do a lot of research, and I've obviously had these for a long time, so trying to figure out what helps, what doesn't, because I haven't found anything that helps. And I went in, I wrote down a whole list of all my symptoms, even the littlest things that could be nothing, like irritability, fatigue, and then some other major problems that have just came into light within the past few months, and I have had migraines my whole life, so I knew that something was different about these migraines because it only had been 3 or 4 months at this point that things were starting to change, such as like my balance and memory or speech, just thinking of something but not being able to say it out loud. And it's not all the time, it's every once in a while. And so I just wrote down all my symptoms or side effects or whatever was happening with me because of my migraines, and I started listing them off to him. And I had a whole page full of them because I was just like, I'm gonna write down everything, even if it's nothing. It could be something that everybody struggles with, but maybe if this bad thing and this bad thing are together, it could mean something else. So I figured I would just write down everything. And sorry, I'm looking everywhere. Like I said, it's kind of hard to process the lists in my head and get the words out. So I wrote down everything, started reading it off to him, and like I said, it was a whole page, but every 3 or 4 things I would say, like tired, dizzy, irritability, he would interrupt me, not in a rude way, but just kind of talking over me quietly. He would say, oh, that's migraines. And then I would list a few more, oh, that's migraines. And so he is a neurologist that specializes in epilepsy, but he's also just a general neurologist. I don't have epilepsy. That's just what he specializes in. When I was reading up on him, all good reviews and everything. So at the end of my list, like I said before, I do a lot of research. I just like to know what's going on or try to figure out what's going on, because some doctors, without thinking, like subconsciously, they'll be like, this is what they're trained to hear, so they'll say, oh, this is what you have, when if you ask about something else, it could mean other things. So at the end of the list, I told him I'm concerned that I have MS, being a female, 21, living in Washington, doing my research. It's not uncommon. So I asked him about that right when I was done with my list, and immediately, almost without any pause, break, hesitation, after I finished my sentence, he said, I knew you were going to say that. No, I don't think you have it, but we'll do an MRI just so you feel better. And that kind of put me off, just because I get very, very bad migraines. At that point, I was getting about 3 or 4 days out of the week, like to where they were debilitating and I couldn't do anything, or it was extremely hard to do things. Because I do have a 2-year-old daughter and I have to take care of her regardless of the situation. And when I couldn't, I would call my fiance's mom or family or my sister or just friends in general to help me with her. And that was really getting to me. But so, excuse me, every ER doctor, all these migraines, they're very bad. So I go to the ER frequently. I haven't lately, but at that time I was going into the ER about 3 days out of the week and just kind of putting up with the rest of the headaches at home because my fiance works all day. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and my friends and family obviously have jobs and are busy most of the time. So ER visits were when he got off work, if he could take me, and then we were there very late, at least 4 hours each time, sometimes 2 or 3 if we were lucky, but like this last recent time we were there for 8 hours. And they just gave me a shot that took about 30 seconds. So it's a very time-consuming thing, not just for me, but for my fiance, who works long hours in construction, and then he's exhausted at the end of the day and has to take me to the ER and all this. Long story short, I'm getting off track. So all the ER doctors I've seen, nurses, and it's always different when you go in because they have their rounds. They're not always there on the same days. And for how frequently I was going, I saw a lot of different ones. The medications that did work for me in the ER, another little side note, was Toradol shots, which they do. It's like they give it to athletes and stuff for pain, and it works for getting. So the Toradol shots they give me, and that works for the pain in my neck, because when I get a migraine, it's like from my shoulders all up, either on one side of my head or the other side of my head. And so it usually works up the back of my neck and sometimes the back of my head, but I always still have a migraine in my temple and in my eyes. And so then we do a lidocaine nebulizer, like with the mask, not through the mouth, so it can go up in my nose. And I make sure that when I have the mask on, I leave a little air pocket so steam can come out here, so the smoke will go like onto my eyes, and it goes up into my eyes through my nose when I have the mask anyways. And lidocaine is basically what they give you at the dentist. It was just in not oxygen, medical air and lidocaine form. So I'm not exactly sure what medical air is, but it's not oxygen, it's different. So they would do that, and that helped with the pain in my eyes. And I always still had that little pain in my temple, but I would eventually just go home and go to sleep. They also gave me a nausea medication with it through IV, because originally we tried out Benadryl through IV, like normal Benadryl, you take it home for an allergy. We did that through IV. I could not have it because in rare cases, maybe not so rare, but not very common, that Benadryl gives people anxiety attacks. And it definitely gave me a really, really bad anxiety attack, because they did a migraine cocktail is what they called it. It was Compazine and Benadryl in shot form, and those were not good for me. The Compazine did the same thing, like severe anxiety attack where I was like hyperventilating, and I kept asking them, can you reverse it, can you undo it, I don't like this, and they're just kind of like, sorry, no, you have to wait it out, I don't know what to tell you, we just won't give it to you again. They put it on my allergy list. Cool. Back to what the neurologist was saying. So he said, I'll give you an MRI just so you feel better, but I think you just have migraines. And so, sorry, the ER nurses, like I was saying, I saw a lot of different ones, and they always would tell me, okay, we have our basic migraine patients that come into the ER. There's something different about yours. Like, there's something else going on with you. You should see a neurologist. And so eventually, from ER doctors and my general doctor, regular family doctor, she had put in multiple referrals. I think she did 4 referrals to my insurance, which I just have state. So I'm not sure what happened. They just kind of said they'll call you and you can schedule with a neurologist. And if they don't call you, then it wasn't approved, kind of thing. So my original doctor had put in 4 requests, and then my ER doctors had put in 2 different requests. 6 requests total for me to see a neurologist, and they all were getting denied. And I was getting really frustrated because my migraines were getting a lot worse because I've had them my whole life. And to hear the ER doctors tell me, well, there's something else going on with you, we're not sure what it is, but you're not just having migraines. And then I go see this neurologist, and he's like, oh, it's just migraines, like, we will do an MRI so you feel better about yourself, but I can tell you it's probably just migraines. Okay, cool. It kind of put me off, and I got really emotional at the end of my neurology visit, and I started crying because of a lot of different reasons. I was happy that there wasn't something extremely wrong with me or concerning, but at the same time, I didn't have any answers. And at this point, I had tried almost every single medication for migraines that I could have because I have a blood clotting problem and can't have certain medications with certain ingredients in them. So my list was already cut in half. And then the neurologist said, okay, we got 3 more medications you need to try because with state insurance, there's a list. You got to go through the list before you can have the good stuff. So I'm currently on the last 3 medications I have to take till February. Today is January something. Let me check. Sorry, on my phone. January 15th today. So I have until mid-February to go back in and be done with these medications because they aren't working. At that point, I can get Botox injections. They're not, everyone hears Botox injections and they're like, oh, like the ones in your face, which yes and no. How he explained it to me is that they are a form of Botox like people use in their face, but it's different also. So they would inject it into my scalp, and I think he was saying the back of my neck too. I'm not exactly sure, but he said that once I come back in for February, if these last 3 medications don't work, because they're the last 3 I gotta try, then we will push for the injections. And he said that those have an over 80% success rate. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm praying that that helps. And at least he told me, another reason I got emotional is because he said to me, well, we're never going to be able to get rid of your migraines. You're going to have them until you die. Literally said that. Like, you will have migraines till you die. You're going to have them your whole life. And I always knew that was going to be the case. I don't know why. Like, somewhere in my brain was just like, oh, if I go see a neurologist, then I won't have migraines anymore and I can live a normal life. And turns out that's not the case, but it's not as dramatic also as I thought, because if I do get the injections, then there's a very, very good chance that my migraines will reduce dramatically. And I did meet one of my ER nurses one time. She said that she used to get migraines, and she's been having the Botox injections for 3 years now, and she hasn't had a migraine in 3 years. So that made me a lot more hopeful and excited. I know there's still a possibility that they won't work, but I'm trying to think positive and praying that they do work. So that would be great. And then I had my brain MRI on November 27th. So I went in, they did it with dye and without dye. Pretty much is just like a little IV. They inject some dye in so they can see different parts of your brain. I don't know, blood vessels or something. And I waited for those results. They came back clear. Everything looks good. So this might be a little bit confusing, but I'm going to try to make it not confusing. The day before I got my brain MRI, I had an appointment with an ear doctor. Backstory. Okay. When I was in 4th grade, like 8 or 9 years old, I believe. That's 4th grade, right? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Anywho, I had tubes, or a tube, put in my right ear because I had a lot of fluid build up behind my ear, and it was causing hearing problems when I was in 4th grade. I had the tube put in, everything went good. Years later, I don't know how many years they stay in your ears. I know they just fall out naturally and you're good to go, whatever. Some people have to get multiple sets of tubes put in their ears throughout their lifetime. So what I'm about to talk about, I figured that's what was happening. I thought, okay, I'm having hearing loss now. I'm going to need more tubes. So 4th grade, got the tubes. Years go by, it falls out, everything looks good, my eardrum looks good. There's a tiny little white scar on my eardrum where they had the tube put in, but that's it. Everything else is fine. I am good. And I had my first ear appointment on November 26th, the day before my brain MRI. And about a month, maybe a little bit less, or a little bit more, I'm not positive, I started having hearing loss. So I sleep on my right side, and I usually put an earbud in my left side because, like I said, my fiance works early in the morning, has long days, and I have insomnia really bad. So I just lay in my bed and I watch my videos, and I put one headphone in because I do have a 2-year-old daughter and she sleeps through the night. She's fine, but I like to have one ear out just in case I need to hear something or whatever. Anywho, I have my left earbud in all the time. I never really use the right one. I just don't. I don't know why. And one night, I remember I was just uncomfortable. I don't know what it was. I rolled over to my other side and I just switched earbuds just because. There was no reason. I wasn't like, oh, I think I'm having hearing loss, let me check. But then when I did put in my right earbud, I noticed on my phone, like, you know when you're turning up the volume on your phone and you have earbuds in and it's like blue and then it hits that red zone where it's like, warning, you could cause hearing damage, kind of. Phones do that with headphones. And so mine was like up in the red, and I was like, oh, I barely, like, it's not bad, but like it's not like my other ear. Like I could tell there was some kind of hearing loss at that point. And so I just did my little tests. I put each one in. I'm like, okay. And then I tried to put my right one into my left ear to make sure it wasn't just my headphones, which it didn't fit very well, but I got the point because it was way louder. And so I noticed that was around, well, that was earlier. That was about around the beginning of October. So the beginning of October this happened, 2019. And I was just like, okay, that's weird. I didn't really think much of it because at the time I thought, oh, I'm probably just going to have to get another tube put in my ear. It's probably fluid, not a big deal. Because it was a lot. It was about probably 50% there, which is okay. I didn't notice it. I never noticed it like talking to people or anything. And I went in for a normal doctor's appointment, like general doctor, on October, sorry, I'm looking at my calendar, October 11th. I went in, I saw my doctor. I told her about my hearing. It was just a normal checkup. I didn't schedule it because of my hearing. I just had to go see her to check up on my headaches. And she had me do some kind of, not like an in-depth test, but like a little balance test type thing where she had me walk in a straight line, look each direction, keep walking, balance on one leg or the other. And I noticed at that point, because I was like, what does that have to do with my hearing? I didn't realize that balance has a lot to do with your hearing, and like you have a balance nerve. So I was doing the tests, and when I was walking straight, I was fine. Head straight, fine. Just one foot in front of the other. Look to the left, perfectly fine. I looked to the right, and I tried to walk in a straight line, and let me tell you, it was not good. I started veering off to the right after like 2 or 3 steps, just like not even like a slow, like, you know, you walking off. It was like immediately my body just was like, oh, we're going this way, when I was trying to walk straight. And that was only when my head was turned like this. And then I noticed, or she noticed, she had me balance on my left leg. Okay, it's fine. Balance on my right leg. I barely picked up my left leg off the floor to balance on my right leg. And immediately I had her standing on this side of me. So she, in case I fell, and then there was a bed on the other side of me, like the just normal doctor bed. And I couldn't stand on my right leg at all. Not that it was like weak, but I just didn't have any balance. It was bad. And So she's kind of like, okay, well, you need to get in and see an ear doctor. I'm going to put in a referral for one ASAP. Though someone will call you and let you know. A couple weeks went by, like 2 or 3 weeks went by, and I still hadn't got any call because I was like, I'll give it 2 weeks, it'll be fine. And then 2 weeks passed, and I'm like, maybe I'll wait a little bit longer. And during this 2 or 3 week time period, I was trying to research stuff about hearing and sudden hearing loss, and like, why did I just start losing my hearing? Because about a week or two after I saw my doctor, like a week, I decided to just check again, and it was a lot worse. It was like around, okay, now I have like 35% hearing left in this ear. And I was getting a little bit worried because I was doing research on studying hearing loss and all this kind of stuff. And I know you're not supposed to research your symptoms. I get that's a bad thing, but I did. And I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm dying, researching stuff. I was just trying to figure out what was going on. And so what I found was saying a lot of, oh, you have like 3 days within hearing loss to go get a steroid shot, or it can be permanent kind of thing. It was true. So, sorry, I am so broke out. I just got distracted by that when I leaned in real close. Don't mind me. Lots of different medications is not good for your skin. Anyway, notice the hearing loss. Comes time for my ear appointment because, like I said, the doctor put in a referral to see an ear doctor. Okay, someone's going to call you 2 weeks tops. 3 weeks went by. I was like, screw this. I started calling around all these different ear doctors, well, ear, nose, and throat doctors, because I hadn't got a call from insurance. I hadn't got any letters in the mail at my address or my mom's address, which was my previous one. And so one second. My phone is not charging. There it goes. Nope. Oh Lord. 1 second, I'll be right back. Stick with me, guys. Okay. We got a new charger. Let's see if this works. Because my phone will die and I need to finish this video. There it goes. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Oh, this is real life. So, where was I? Okay, yeah. So I called around a bunch of different ear doctors, and I found one that took my insurance. Made an appointment ASAP, told them what was going on the phone. They're like, yeah, you need to get in here, because it's probably permanent. Anyway, I had my ear appointment on November 26th, my first one. I went in, they did a hearing test, normal, like you would do like at school when you're really young, you know? And it took a lot longer than I thought. It was like, I was there for like an hour. And then they did a bone test to like test the little bones in your ear. And they put something behind my ear to see if my bones were hearing properly. I'm not really sure how it all works. So they did all that, and she's like, yep, your hearing is not great. It's pretty bad. They showed me this little like chart thing they had on the monitor from charting which sounds I could hear and not hear. They also did words, which I thought was interesting. I've never had that happen. Anywho, they did all that, met with the doctor. He says, yeah, girl, your hearing is not great. But he wasn't saying what he thought it was, because I was waiting for him to be like, oh, you have fluid in your ear. He looked in my ear. He's like, you don't even have earwax. Like, there's hardly any, like, your eardrum looks perfectly healthy. There's a tiny little scar where you had your tube before, which I already knew. And everything looks good. I'm not sure what's going on with your ears. So my left ear was perfectly fine, normal, great. Didn't have any problems at all. And I asked him, because he wasn't saying anything. He's just like, yeah, we're going to do an ear MRI. I want it to be rushed. Talking to his assistant, he's telling this to her. And then I mentioned to him, well, I have a brain MRI tomorrow from my neurologist. It has nothing to do with my hearing, but I just got a neurology ear MRI tomorrow. So he put in for the hospital where I was getting, or the medical offices where I was getting my ear or my brain MRI done, sorry, he was wondering if they could do my ear MRI at the same time, and I guess because of my insurance, they couldn't do them on the same day. They can only do like one in a day or in a time frame. So I asked him, because he wasn't saying anything, just like, oh, you're going to get this MRI. Yeah, you have hearing loss. Yeah, it's permanent. You're not going to get it back. And so I was like, okay, well, thinking in my head, like, am I going to need like a hearing aid? Like, what's going on? Because it's not horrible. Like, even today, like, the main thing he said that he noticed right off the bat is when I was talking to him, I was talking to him like this. Where, like, if I'm normal people talk to you straight on, I was talking to him like this, just because I didn't even notice I was doing it. I just naturally, to hear better, I asked him, I said, so is there any guesses on what you think it could be? Just like a ballpark. And he told me that his biggest concern was that there was something wrong with my nerve, which connects, like my balance nerve connects from my ear to my brain, sends signals, whatever. And I said, okay, so we'll just gotta wait for the MRI to figure it out. Okay, cool. I went the next day for my brain MRI. Well, he did tell me too, before, he said that he knows it's not fluid, because if it was fluid, he'd be able to see like a small little shadow at the bottom of my eardrum, and it looked completely normal. So the next day I had my brain MRI, and I mentioned to the guy doing my MRI, because I was going to be going to the same place for my ear MRI. I told him about my appointment with my ear doctor, and I told him, I was like, well, this was going on, I'm going to have to come back in. I was just wondering if we were going to do the ear MRI today or not, because at that point I didn't know. And then he told me, the MRI tech said that, no, we can't do them in the same day because of your insurance, so we'll have to schedule the other one for another time. And I eventually ended up getting my ear MRI done on December 12th, 2019. So, like 2 weeks later. But for my brain MRI, I got that done. It was perfectly fine and normal. And then I got my ear MRI done, and they didn't call me for like, I think it was like 2 weeks, but then it was like holiday, Christmas time, so it was just longer than that. It was like 3 weeks, because I waited. I was like, okay, whatever, holidays, I don't really know how their hours are working. And I figured, you know, if there was something really wrong, he would have called me, and he didn't. So I got my ear MRI done, came back. Well, I called him because they weren't answering, and I called like 10 times and they still weren't answering or calling me back. And so I called him. Everything's good. I mean, he's like, there's a tiny little shadow where your nerve is, but I don't think it's anything to be worried about. I'm not concerned at all. We'll just check back in 3 months, and then again at 6 months. And I told him, okay, cool. My hearing is still bad. But yeah, it's definitely permanent. I'm not getting my hearing back. He didn't mention anything about hearing aids. I'm assuming that's like if your hearing's really bad. I don't really know. But we're just going to check back in and see where it's at. He said, unless there's any sudden changes with your hearing, I'll see you in 3 months. Call me if there's something crazy that happens. So that's where we're at kind of right now. I am taking my medications for my migraines that I am prescribed, obviously, until February, mid-February. They like wrote it down in their handwriting, and I couldn't tell if they wrote February 14th or February 19th, so I'm gonna have to call them and double check. But yeah, I'm just kind of wanted to come on here and explain everything that's going on. I know this is a very long video, and kudos to you if you stuck around through it and my whole charger situation. But this is life. This is juggling hope, because Lord, let me tell you, life is a juggle, for real. I guess I could explain also really quick, just carry on the video more, if you're even still watching, anybody. So my migraines, I think it's interesting to hear other people's views on their experiences with migraines, because a lot of people have had at least one migraine in their life, but I get them so frequently that it's like interesting to me to hear other people's experiences. So if you are watching and you do get migraines, even if it's not as bad as mine or if it's worse than mine, like, I'm so curious to hear about it. I want to know about other people's experiences, but mine are pretty much puking, feeling nauseous, can't drink any water at all, not even like a sip, or I immediately throw up. It's really extremely hard to even get up to go to the bathroom. Like I have to put pressure on my head like this to even stand up. I get extremely dizzy. It's very, very hard for me to walk. My fiance, like when we are going to the ER, I have to hold his arm to be able to walk, and I walk extremely slow. And my brain gets very confused, like when I'm thinking of something and I'm trying to say it. And this is all just during a migraine. I have a lot of other symptoms I'll get into in another video, like that I have on a daily basis and how it's like living with that. But just like during a migraine, this is what happens. I do find it really hard, like harder to breathe. Not like, I guess it is like an anxiety attack, but it's like at the beginning stages of an anxiety attack where like you're just kind of like every couple words you're like, oh, I need to breathe, like take a deep breath. And it's really hard to talk because I get so exhausted just from talking. Extreme light sensitivity, extreme noise sensitivity, even to like the point where sometimes my own like throbbing or heartbeat, like pain, like it sounds loud and it's in my body. And there's a few other things that are not coming into my brain right now. Balance issues for one. Just a lot of stuff. And nothing helps besides going to the ER right now. So I'm really hoping that we can kind of figure this all out and get it under control, because I've been having these my entire life, and it's hard because I can't laugh too much in a day. I can't talk too much in a day. I can't be silly with my daughter. Like, if it's sunny, I want to go outside and play with her, but I can't be out there too long. Or if I do, I know I'm going to have a migraine because of the sunlight or the heat or being too cold or just like stressing, obviously. And I'm one that has extreme anxiety all the time because I'm always worried about giving myself a migraine. I'm not saying I want to go out and get drunk and go to bars and be that person, but I'm like, I want to be able to have champagne on my wedding. I want to be able to have a beer on Super Bowl Sunday. Like little stuff like that that just kind of takes away from being a normal person. Like I can't go out to parties, like bachelorette parties or birthday parties or football parties at people's houses even, without having to rein it in. And then a lot of the times people will tell me like, what's wrong with her? Why is she so upset? Why is she so quiet? Why is she being weird? And I'm like, I just have to be calm. I can't get excited. I can't do things. And so it feels like it's eating me up and taking control over my life. And it's really hard. And that's another part of the reason I made this channel, because I can sit here and talk about it even if nobody is watching. I get to vent and I get to share my story and my experiences. And I'm really excited to keep updating on everything going on.